right now, maybe it isn't really just posturing. The shutdown threat in D.C., it's getting realer by the day. But the question is, will the Republicans really back off in the 11th hour? And next, in the aftermath of yet another mass shooting, President Obama, he scolded Washington lawmakers for their inaction when it comes to gun control. Is real reform achievable? And if so, what will it look like? Tonight, we hear from a Newtown mom who's calling on Congress to act. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Monday evening, September 23rd. And once again, Washington, it's careering towards an economic cliff with two major deadlines. And over the weekend, the president said he's just not going to stand for it.
This is an interesting thing to ponder, that your top agenda is making sure 20 million people don't have health insurance. And you'd be willing to shut down the government and potentially default for the first time in United States history because it bothers you so much that we're actually going to make sure that everybody has affordable health care. Well, let me say as clearly as I can, it is not going to happen. We have come too far. We've overcome far darker threats than those. We will not negotiate over whether or not America should keep its word and meet its obligations. We're not going to allow anyone to inflict economic pain on millions of our own people just to make an ideological point. And those folks are going to get some health care in this country. We've been waiting 50 years for it.
Now, the House passed a bill that would prevent the government from running out of money on September 30th. But, and there is a catch here, the bill also completely defunds the implementations of the president's health care bill. It's a symbolic vote. House passed the bill. Absolutely no chance of things getting through a Democrat-controlled Senate. So, some Republicans, they still champion the move.
We had a victory today for the American people. And frankly, we also had a victory for common sense. Our message to the United States Senate is real simple. The American people don't want the government shut down, and they don't want Obamacare.
We are united around a very simple goal, and that is keeping the government open while protecting our constituents from the harmful effects of Obamacare. So we were going to do everything we can to protect our constituents. We have 8 days to do that. And my hope is that the Senate is going to act in a very positive way.
Well, I spent the entire month of August traveling Texas, traveling the country, speaking to the people. And the American people are hurting because Obamacare isn't working. It's killing jobs. It's driving up their health insurance rates. It's causing them to be pushed into part-time work. It's causing them to lose their health insurance. I believe we should stand our ground.
All right. And the guy you just saw there, the poster child in many ways for this, and also part of what many say is also the circular firing squad with Republican Senator Ted Cruz. We'll get to that in a second. But just to show you, and the polls back this up, how out of touch some of these folks are on this, you have one House Republican who even compared the effort to defund Obamacare to, wait for this, the civil rights movement. And I'm quoting here directly. It takes only one with passion. Look at Rosa Parks, Lech Walesa, and Dr. Martin Luther King when talking about his effort here to defund Obamacare. You cannot make this up. Some Republicans think the effort is to shut down the government. It doesn't make any sense. Now remember, these are Republican voices.
In the United States Senate, we will not repeal or defund Obamacare. We will not. And to think we can is not rational.
I think it's the dumbest idea I've ever heard of.
Now it goes on. You got Senator Bob Corker who tweeted, I didn't go to Harvard or Princeton, but I can count. The defunding box cannon is a tactic that will fail and will weaken our position. That meant directly to be a jab at the guy I talked about, Ted Cruz, who was educated at Harvard and Princeton. So the question is, what happens next and how real is the threat of a shutdown? I spoke with Congressman Steve Israel, Democrat representing Long Island, earlier today to get the inside scoop. Congressman, you know, there's a lot of people at home saying, oh, this is typical, back and forth in Washington, regular dysfunction. Just how serious are House Republicans in really shutting down this government? Is this just brinksmanship, or are they really serious? They're not bluffing here.
Well, they are absolutely serious, and this is not a game. This is not a game of chicken. This isn't about brinksmanship. People are paying taxes for government to work, not to play games. I've talked to many Republicans, moderate Republicans, the few who are left, and they tell me that the Tea Party caucus in the House of Representatives is bent on shutting down this government unless Obamacare is defunded. They've tried to repeal it 43 times. It hasn't worked. Now they're willing to tell veterans caseworkers that they're off the job because they couldn't get their way. Instead of people waking up every morning trying to figure out how to get their way, how about they wake up in the morning to figure out how to compromise a little more?
Finally, Congressman, if anybody at home says, same old, no material impact to me, tell people why, not only the looming deadline a week from now, but also in mid-October, how much of an impact on a tenuous economy this could potentially have.
Well, you know, for people who say, who cares if the government shuts down, well, you're paying taxes. You're paying taxes to the federal government. You deserve services. And so if you're a veteran and you need a veterans caseworker to help you out to file a claim, government shuts down, that doesn't happen. If you're a small business and you're receiving a small business administration loan to keep your business afloat, that doesn't happen. And so we should not shut down the federal government. Even worse than shutting down the federal government would be if these members of Congress, every single one of them, who puts spending on the federal credit card decides in a couple weeks that they are going to renege on that obligation. That would be a cataclysmic impact to the United States economy, to people's 401ks, to their retirements, to their pensions, to their investments, and to the world economy. These members of Congress have made decisions to spend money. They've racked up the bills, every single one of them. Sometimes on oil subsidies for rich oil companies, sometimes on farm subsidies. If you're going to put money on the credit card, you have to pay your obligations. Richard, not a single one of your viewers can call up their credit card company and say, you know what, I know that I spent this money, but out of ideology, I've decided not to pay it. If your viewers don't get to play by those rules, neither should members of Congress.
All right, I want to bring in our panel on this. Richard Brodsky, former New York State Assemblyman, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU, and many of you may have seen a column of his we're going to be talking about in a little bit. Dominic Carter, political journalist, author. Richard St. Clair, too many Richards at the table, Republican strategist and a former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent, who had an interesting interview in Connecticut today that we'll get to shortly. Okay, I think this much we can agree on. We're not going to agree on everything today, but this much we can agree on. This is one of these man-made crises that we've gotten used to in Washington. The votes definitely aren't there to get the thing through, and the consequences are very real if Republicans in the House want to keep playing this thing out. We also know from Republicans in the Senate that they're queasy about the idea, and many don't want to go along to get along on this because they know both the consequences and the electoral math. So, Richard, I'll start with you. What in the name of common sense are they doing if they want to keep playing this hand out? The president made it clear he is not going to capitulate on this, and the polls tell me he'd be crazy if he did.
Look, the point is that Obamacare is just not working.
But wait,
now,
can I ask you a stupid question? No, stupid question. How do you, I don't know if it's going to work, but you don't know either because they haven't even rolled it out yet. So how is it not working?
Well, let's talk about why it hasn't been rolled out. The president himself has delayed parts of the Obamacare rolling out. I think it was 19 different parts. In addition to that, the unions have come out and said, hey, we don't like Obamacare. So,
whoa. Time out, Richard. We're going to do facts here. The unions have said there are parts of it they don't like, but they made it clear today, the largest union in the country, we do not want to defund Obamacare. We don't want to repeal Obamacare. I'm quoting directly here. We want to amend it and fix it. The president has said he can't even get Republicans to talk because after 43 tries, they still want to defund it. But save all the politics. The question Americans have been scared about is, oh my God, this thing's the worst thing ever. How do you know?